The one in Oakwood that we'll have. That one has.
Classic.
45s or, I mean, LP, the big. Yep.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Some number of chickens are, I don't know about.
No. I think it actually excludes.
It might exclude.
It does to me.
That's something that we were sisters eating.
Oh, no wonder I can't see.
Lord. I got my glasses.
Check that out.
We're getting underway in about 20 seconds.
That's true.
Didn't help you then, John.
Phones down.
It wasn't in the front.
Ringers down.
Oh, you're a baby.
2014.
They used to.
Oh.
Cooling over there? I was crying, yeah. Little guy back there.
We're getting underway in 10, 9, 6, 3. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, April 13th, 2021. Before we get underway this evening, Reverend Ben Polson from the Poplar Ridge Church of the Brethren is here to open us up in prayer. Reverend Polson, thanks for being with us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Let us pray. Lord, thank you for another day to enjoy your beautiful creation, and what a day it was. Thank you that seemingly an end is in sight, hopefully to this pandemic, Lord, and life might be getting back to some semblance of normal. We pray your continued comfort and blessing upon those who are still suffering and those who have lost loved ones to this disease, that your hand of mercy would be upon them, that they would know your peace, your presence, and your love, and that they would lean on you. Thank you, Father, for the many blessings you give us. Thank you for these men and women who have dedicated their lives to serving others, serving people in the city of Defiance. Pray that you would give them wisdom as they do their jobs, that they would discern between good things and the best things. Sometimes it's hard to know the difference, Lord, and we pray that you would give them wisdom to make good choices. Oh, Father, be with them tonight, be with us all, show us the way, and grant us your wisdom and mercy. Through Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Polson. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Let the record show that all members of council are present this evening. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I reviewed the index minutes for the City Council meeting for March 23rd, 2021. Does anyone have a motion to correct or amend the index minutes? They look good to me, so I will approve the same. Do we have any liaison meetings or reports? Right. Do we have any comments from council at the moment? Mr. Mast.
I just wanted to bring a little info from the Parks Board. Of course, Saturday was the annual Clean Up Your Parks Day, and luckily Mother Nature cooperated so that and helped us out. And they had 371 volunteers that showed up, 84 more than the last time. Picked up 74 bags of trash, 40 bags of leaves, and 9 piles of sticks. And they were very pleased and thought it was a very successful day. And I got to pitch in myself at the reservoir. And it was nice to see everybody come out.
That's good news. Thank you. Any other comments from council? Nope. Okay. On my desk, just to remember, on May 4th, we're going to have a study session. The DHS CAD class will be here for a presentation on the roundabout improvements. So mark your calendars.
You're gonna move it up.
Oh, and in accordance with Rule 12.3, instead of having the study session at the end, we'll be having it at the beginning of the meeting. That's all on my desk.
Or
Yes.
is that when we're gonna open the chamber back up, or if we're council chambers, or have we haven't decided yet?
Well, I was gonna, Mr. Wexler, gonna bring that up in my comments. But,
Okay, okay, go ahead.
So it's a good question. It's very timely.
Okay, I'll wait.
Very
Okay.
Mayor McCann.
Thank you, President McMaster. First of all, Mr. Leonard is out this evening. He said he needed a break from me. Two things that exceeded our $15,000 limit. The first being a payment of $15,054.19 to Clark Mosquito Control Products for mosquito chemicals for our mosquito fogging. And the other one was to Varsity Brands Holding Company for new goals for the Riverside Soccer Complex, which if you haven't driven by it, is coming along quite nicely, and that amount was $22,500. And I'm sad to report that we finished the book. But it's my understanding that Mrs. Houck's class at Holy Cross has published another one. And as soon as I can obtain a copy of that, why, we will start up again. I too wanted to thank the community. Mr. Mass did a wonderful job, but thank the community for Clean Up Your Parks Day, as he said. Great weather, great turnout, great work was accomplished. And my family and I were at Deal, and I will have to say that my daughter even commented that it seemed cleaner than it had been in years past, which we know that our parks have gotten a lot more use during the pandemic. So the fact that the park is cleaner is a real credit to our citizens. And that said, is I guess a segue into something I wanted you all to see. Well, actually, I really didn't want you to see.
Oh.
Are you gonna be able to show that?
Yeah.
So this was sent to me late last evening, and it's just a picture of something I think you will all recognize. And I think when you look close enough at the picture, you'll recognize even where you're letting me
Nothing's
down here,
working.
kiddo.
Nothing is working.
All right. Well, what it is it's a nice size pile of dog poop on the reservoir trail. You don't need to put my picture up there.
Well, I can't do it. There's what I'm talking about.
That fit right in, didn't it?
Oh, Lisa, great timing. But there it is. So, there it is. And I really just wanted to put this up for effect. This is what I saw at 4 o'clock this morning. And,
We don't need to see it no more.
we all want nice things. And we have tried very, very hard to make nice things, and we have. And we also want to allow people to have their pets with them when they're on their walks and things. I wasn't too politically involved. I'm guessing maybe Mr. Engel was and Mr. Uresti back in the day when the whole issues came up at Riverside Cemetery, to where council had to make the tough decision to ban pets from Riverside Cemetery. We really don't want to go there. I do not want to even discuss banning pets in our parks, but these problems can't persist. And this isn't the first time I've brought this up, even at the reservoir. I will say that I talked with Mr. Sarrigan early this morning. He sent somebody out to investigate it and swoop it off, but somebody else had already done that. So thank you to whatever caring citizen took the time to deal with that, but pet owners have to act a little more responsibly. And that, sir, is all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Esty.
I have a question for the mayor. Talking about the boardwalk,
Yes, sir.
there are some wear and tear, some maintenance that probably needs to be done.
Okay.
Some of the screws that are coming up.
Okay,
And then also there's some, where some of the boards are coming up that somebody could, stub as they're walking.
okay.
I was
Mr.
just wondering if, we had anything or in the near future where somebody could basically review that and, I mean, it's beautiful. It's just one of those things where we just have to basically, keep an eye on it to make sure that nobody, doesn't get away from it.
Mr. Sarrigan did show me a displaced board yesterday when we were together and said that that was being dealt with, but I think maybe later this week, the Board of Control can go for a little walk, so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Mr. President, last week you had asked me to review the latest health directives from the state of Ohio on, specifically on the question of whether we could open up and invite the public back into the meeting physically. They've always been able to join us virtually, but we want to see those friendly faces, the Ron Posies, the Bert Coopers and such, and we miss them very much. So I did go over the order, and it's my recommendation to you, or my advice to you, that you can invite the public back in and comply with this latest health order dated 8 April 2021. There will be some conditions. Masks are required for the general public to attend on this, in what would be a large gathering. You can only allow the room to reach 25% of capacity. That's for any fixed seating event, whether it's the Defiance City Council or the World Series. It's 25%. Everyone else will have to just wait outside if they want to come in and address you and wait their turn. All attendees must sit 6 feet apart from each other. And the order also recommends that you open all doors and windows to improve the ventilation in this area. As for the 25% capacity, I did some lawyer math before council, and it's my estimate this normally would fit like 40 chairs, so you'd be safe having 10 people in here in the gallery.
Okay.
And that doesn't count Todd, because he's First Amendment, and the director's order exempts First Amendment press activities and such, for Mr. Helberg.
Excellent. And in order to do this, we would need a motion to
A motion to
reinstate or to suspend the.
suspend the rule suspension that you put in place, I believe most recently last December, and to reinstate the regular order rules.
Okay. Mr. Waxley, you're making a motion to suspend the rule suspension that were instilled December of 2020 regarding citizens attending city council meetings.
Correct.
Correct. And we have a second?
I'll second. I just want to clarify, this is,
Question, Mr. Hankin?
do we have to put a date to it, like May 1st, in order to follow through with this? Or do we just make a motion and then the following meeting
I'm just saying the
will be
next
available?
meeting.
Well, if it's, there's two ways we can do it. Obviously, we can make it an emergency, which would take effect immediately if you chose to suspend the rules and call the question. Or if it's regular order, it's going to be 30 days from when you pass the ordinance.
Okay. So just
I'll move that to an emergency then, so we can just allow people to come in.
an emergency motion to suspend the suspension of rules enacted December 2020.
Correct.
Okay.
I will second.
You'll second the motion.
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
All right. Even though it is an emergency, the motion carries. The suspension of rules has been suspended, which means starting next city council meeting, citizens will be able to attend, voice citizens' concerns. But the issues that Mr. O'Donnell brought up is that essentially we'll have to be a bit more reliable than lawyer math, as if there was such a thing.
Right, and I'm sorry, maybe I misspoke. We will have to change it by legislation because that's how we changed it originally.
You're right,
So we would
right.
change on the 27th, if it were emergency, according to Mr. Waxer's motion, it would take effect, if it passed, would take effect May 4th.
Yep, sorry, I got a step ahead of myself.
So we're just in the process following through.
Right.
Right, since we changed it by ordinance, we have to change it back by ordinance.
Yep, you're right. And will the caveats be included in the ordinance?
I can include those, yes.
All right. Thank you. Was there anything else, Mr. O'Donnell?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Mr. Leonard?
Nothing this evening.
All right.
Except I had the purchase orders that the mayor's already given you, but we just had our wires crossed. That's all.
You want these back?
Yeah.
Okay. We have 2 ordinances and a resolution for consideration this evening. Would you read the caption for the first one? Ms. Elders?
Third reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing expansion of the Defiance outdoor refreshment area, making certain findings and determinations and enacting regulations to that effect.
I'm not going to step on your toes this time, but we will have I have 11 or 12 letters to be reading this evening.
They're probably more eloquent than what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But I'll give you my spiel. Again, third reading, as the clerk indicated. And I would just leave you with 2 points, given what may transpire tonight. First, section 4301.82C of the Ohio Revised Code for passage tonight requires the affirmative vote of a majority of the legislative authority. And that's just like our rules. But if the legislative authority disapproves this application, the executive officer of the municipal corporation, that's the mayor, obviously, may make changes to the application in order to secure its approval by the legislative authority. So if it fails, the motion to adopt fails, the mayor can then resubmit the application. And that correlates with our council rule 19.4D. In the event of a failure of a motion to adopt, or in the event of the majority of council does not affirmatively vote in favor of the motion to adopt, the proposed ordinance or resolution shall stand defeated, and no bill proposing the same legislative enactment shall be presented to council for a period of 6 months, unless reintroduction is requested by a majority of council. So therefore, the mayor, acting as the executive authority, could theoretically resubmit the expansion application with some proposed changes that he thinks might meet your approval. But according to our rule 19.4D, that requires the majority of council to bring it forward. So it would take 4 votes in order for you to accept the mayor's resubmission, which he may or may not do, but that would be the hurdle for him to clear. As for the proposed expansion of the DORA itself, Ms. Mack is here to answer any questions, and I know you have the letters to read from your constituents.
Oh, well said. All right, with this issue, as well as any other issue, since the rules have been suspended since last December, I've told every week during city council meetings, and personally to people on either side of the issue, that if they would like to write a letter or send an email, that we will read it before discussing the ordinance so that their input has some impact, that we'll actually be considering what the citizens of Defiance have to say on this issue. Normally, if the motion to suspend the rule suspension is passed, well, then we'll have people in here to be able to speak their mind once again. But are there any council members who have letters or emails in regards to this? Mr. Rusty.
This letter's from Norm Walker. Just wanted to let you both know that I am not in favor of the DORA expansion into Kingsbury Park. I truly believe that this is a children's park with a playground, swimming pool, and a Little League baseball field. I do not see the need to bring alcohol into the park. It is already marked no alcohol and should remain that way. I am not against the Dora at all, nor the expansion of it, with the exception of Kingsbury Park. The Dora is a good thing to have to assist the downtown merchants. I feel Kingsbury not only being a kids park, but is actually too far from the downtown merchants to be of any real assistance to the merchants downtown. This is my opinion of the proposed expansion, but thank you both for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Resty. Mr. Corbett?
I've got two of them, sir, and we'll get to them real quick. First one's real short. This is from Jane Parker. We do not want any alcoholic beverages served in the city parks. Now, I'm trying to do this on the computer, not the phone, because I'm not as quick as Ms. Crutch. And this comment is from Mike Ketchum. Councilman Corbett, I want to share my thoughts on Dora. I do not see the need to expand the Dora zone into the public park system. I do not believe condoning the consumption of alcohol in our park and system with children present shares the family values we should be striving for. In addition, surely this would add to the cleanup. Not everybody will find the trash can, and burden our emergency services if things get out of hand, which seems to be a common theme when alcohol is involved in many events. I hope council shares my concerns and votes against this expansion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. Mrs. Crutch?
I don't have any that I had to read, but I did get 3 texts that were just concerned citizens also saying that they really wanted it to stay out of the Kingsbury Park area because of the playground. And I have to agree with them on that.
I have had several, I don't have more to read, I just had several against it. I got 2 for it. So.
Okay. Mr. Hancock?
I've had many conversations, but I don't have anything to actually read text messages and so forth. And I agree with Mrs. Crutch. I've heard a lot of feedback. Some are in favor of that. The big question is the Kingsbury area, because it's very family oriented, and that area is my concern as well. And that's what I have.
Thank you. Mr. Mast?
No, I'd just like to echo Mr. Hancock's sentiment as well, as I think most people, their biggest concern is Kingsbury Park. And understandably so, and like so many have said in the conversations I've had, it is so far away from current establishments that it does make it a bit of a stretch. Hopefully we can find a middle ground here with this.
Thank you. Mr. Engel?
No.
Mr. President,
Yes.
since we're given comments, is it time for a comment?
Sure.
I have a personal opinion that I'd like to share. Now, I know as a council, we've debated this quite a while now, and we're at our 3rd reading. But I still feel this issue is controversial enough that we should have found a way, even with these restrictions we have, to hold public meetings in a larger space or send out a questionnaire to our constituents prior to this final reading. We've had residents that express their views on both sides of this debate, but in my ward, the majority have asked that I vote against it. I believe our parks should remain family friendly and alcohol free. If a community organization chooses the riverfront as a place to hold their event, they do have that opportunity to obtain a permit for a day that will allow them to have that alcohol that they wish to have, but it puts it in a more controlled environment, in my opinion, that's better controlled. At present, the distance to obtain a Dora Cup and walk to Pontiac or Kingsbury Park just doesn't seem very convenient or for the appropriate use of the Dora. In my opinion, extending the Dora District to promote our beauty of our river is it's not the cornerstone for us to build on for that purpose. The Dora District from its inception was designed to promote our downtown and downtown businesses
Extending the district away from downtown will not help reach that goal. I see no reason to extend the Dora district beyond its current boundaries. And at this time, I'm gonna listen to my constituents and I won't vote for this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. And it seems as though there are a lot of opinions that we can use in discussion. I did promise the people of Defiance, when I chat with them, that I'll read every one of their letters. And so hang on for a few minutes. I want to make sure I get these read before we have further discussion, because I think there's further discussion to have. But if I promised that I would read them, I would read them. Some are rather short, some are rather lengthy, but I want to be good to my word here. The first one is from Arlena Valle Ponce. Good afternoon. I would like to express my support for the expansion of Dora boundaries to include D-Town. I recently moved back into Defiance city limits, and one of the exciting things I was looking forward to was walking downtown, enjoying our beautiful city. When I heard Defiance had Dora like Napoleon, I was excited. Many times we've had dinner and then enjoyed a walk downtown with our Dora beverage. The not so exciting part was having to dump my drink out before I got to D-Town, or waiting at a corner while I finish my drink. Seems the extension to D-Town should be a non-issue since they serve food and ate a business. I support Dora. There are a lot of adults that drink responsibly and can be examples of responsible drinking. Not everyone is over-consuming, especially when we purchase the special cup at authorized establishments. Hope Council can come to an agreement in regards to expansion to the parks. Personally, I would enjoy walking to the park with my Dora beverage. I don't think the folks that enjoy Dora would abuse it. The next is Barb Ensign. I am asking you to include D-Town Market and Oasis in the Dora area. They've been a great asset to the Defiance community. The next is Carrie Wetstein. Please vote to include D-Town Food Market in the Dora district. The next is Karen Lawson. I think D-Town should be included in the Dora area. They have been a wonderful boost to Defiance with their offerings, and extending Dora that one block would be nice. The next is Sarah Burt. Good morning. I am a citizen here in this town, and I have been seeing on Facebook that D-Town wants to extend Dora down to their business. My concern is that it is so close to the park, viaduct, and railroad tracks. We just recently got approved for this within the past 2 years, and I think it's great for downtown. However, that is not where this business is located. My other concern would be where it would stop. Other businesses will want theirs included. If this was something that they wanted to do, then I believe they should have chosen a place within the Dora limits to establish a business, as this was already in place before they opened. Thank you for your time. Mary Geckel wrote in to say, please include D-Town inside the Dora. They should have the same rights as other businesses close by. Mike Ordaz said, please include the Dora to include D-Town Food Market and Oasis. I think it is beneficial to other surrounding businesses and bring in more revenue. Cassara Jones wrote in, I am here to give my vote and my husband's vote for Dora to be expanded to include D-Town Market and Oasis. We're over halfway done. Dear members of City Council, we are writing to encourage a no vote for the expansion of the Defiance Outdoor Refreshment, Dora. Offering the opportunity to walk our streets with open containers of alcohol sends the wrong message about Defiance, a great place to live. We encourage our children to say no to drugs, and we support programs such as DARE, and yet we tell them that walking around Defiance drinking alcohol in open containers is encouraged and appropriate. We want to give our students every opportunity to succeed in life. Yet a 2012 University of Florida study found that alcohol use, not marijuana, among adolescents was indeed the gateway drug that led to harder drugs. Alcohol can assuredly be linked to many social ills and family struggles, domestic violence, severe mood swings, impaired driving, depression, drunkenness, and as a current evidence from the Surgeon General reveals the correlation between alcohol consumption and cancer. Alcohol and children do not mix, yet the proposal to expand the DORA to include our parks where we encourage families with small children to congregate and make memories. One of the selling points for expanding the DORA is to entice more tourists. We believe that there are many other viable ways to entice tourism in our city. The Defiance Development and Visitors Bureau does an exceptional job of promoting Defiance through their events such as the Balloon Fest, Rib Fest, Chocolate Walk, etc. It is those events and not the expansion of DORA that will encourage people to visit our great city. There is no reason in our estimation to offer DORA, let alone expand the area for consumption of alcoholic beverages, and we do not want to see our downtown become an open bar. While we are not against alcohol, we are against the promotion of it through the expansion of DORA. We thank you as council members for the way you diligently serve our city and the way you act, and we ask you for a no to the expansion of DORA. Cordially, the Defiance area ministers, Reverend Rick Rufinacht, Reverend Ben Polzen, Reverend Isaac Shelton, Reverend Don Leonard, Reverend Dave Knopfsinger, Reverend Mick Sobiak, Reverend Don Litchfield, Reverend Tim Hacker, and Reverend Pete Flores. We're almost there. The next is from Dylan Westrait. Dear City Council President, I am writing this letter not only a citizen and taxpayer of Defiance County, but also as a small business owner in Defiance County. I wanted to voice my opinion regarding the DORA extension and that I am 100% support of the extension of the DORA district to the parks and especially to D-Town. I believe having the DORA extension will not only get more of our own city to spend more time and money here in Defiance, but also many others outside of our county to do the same. It would be a great benefit to our city to see the Defiance community grow, as well as all the small businesses that it holds in it, which are all in great need of our support during these hard times of the COVID pandemic. I listened to the last council meeting and understand the concerns regarding this extension and feel it would still benefit this community more than harm it. Even having alcohol allowed in the parks could set an example for being responsible and not reckless to our kids rather than alcohol being a bad thing. Being a small business owner and also vendor at D-Town, I have seen firsthand how much increased traffic, if even for a day or two, can make a huge difference to a small business as my own, and would encourage you to focus more on our own community and its growth in this decision. I thank you for your time in reading this letter and my opinion being heard. Regards, Dylan Westry. Bella G. from 17086 Harris Road says, Dear City Council President, I am writing this letter to show my full support, vote yes, to the expansion of the DORA district to D-Town. My decision to support this motion is based on promoting the small business in Defiance that are creating a unique and desirable community. While watching the meeting, I noted that the concern of the Defiance physical therapy, however, their hours of operation are not conflicting with common sense drinking hours. Thank you for hearing the people of the community. Two more. This was written on behalf of Tom Hart and Jennifer Hart, owners of D-Town Food Market and Oasis, in regards to the DORA expansion program. We want to thank our great city of Defiance and its citizens for coming together to have a conversation both for and against the proposal to extend DORA. No matter the outcome, having people invest their time and energy into the workings of our community is a win. Our feelings on the whole proposal is this. We see both sides. We agree with both sides. The concerns all around are legitimate, and the bravery of those who have shared their points of view is inspirational to us. Rather than pick a side or point fingers, we would just like everyone to shift focus to the concept of revitalization. This DORA program is a part of a bigger picture. The debate in our minds isn't about drinking on the streets, though we would greatly benefit from the expansion as a new business. For us, we see the opportunity for revitalization, meaning that we feel any opportunity to bring new business and new exciting opportunities to Defiance a bigger benefit. We live in a community blessed with waterways and with beautiful landscapes. Many of us go to Toledo, Fort Wayne, Florida, well, anywhere but here to enjoy great food and drinks. By rejecting the expansion, we are missing a great opportunity to embrace and use our natural landscape to our advantage. In the age of COVID, many of us want to be home, having the allure for businesses to want to create avenues for a restaurant on the river or even a riverboat dinner boat. The ability to walk trails and buy snacks and beverages is something that happens all over our country. We feel it's time to embrace the opportunity to develop our community and maximize what could be. By extending the Dora boundaries, you're creating new and innovative business for Defiance. We can come together as a community and work together to support the growth and expansion of our entertainment to our rivers and our downtown. This opportunity is for growth and income generation for our city, not about drinking in the parks. Please remember, this is a trial program. If we're unable to handle the guidelines and instead abuse the system, the entire Dora program can be scrapped. We have a wonderful police force, great citizens, and a progressive mayor. It's refreshing to know that we have the ability sitting before us to at least try. We are in support of the entire expansion. The preference of more people in our parks and enforcement by law will actually make it more difficult for criminal activity in our city parks. Honestly, we would be naive to believe that drugs, alcohol, sexual activity, etc. is already taking place at places intended for the enjoyment of families. Having Dora is not a license to drink in the park at all, not even close. It simply allows businesses to obtain a license to sell a Dora cup, and for someone who has purchased a Dora cup, the ability to walk in designated areas with said cup. I would like to point out one more thing that leads to another opportunity. While some people walk our community, most people have become used to convenience. I don't know about you, but for myself and my husband, the chance for us walking from Spanx, Miami Erie, or even Kistner's all the way to Kingsbury or Pontiac Park are pretty slim. But if a restaurant comes in down the road closer to these areas, it would be enjoyable to sit on a restaurant deck or walk to the swings at Pontiac during designated hours to watch the river landscape. Who knows, maybe someday we'll have boats and ski shows and kneeboard events again. And lastly, this is from Diana Bauer. Hello, I'm writing to express my feelings about the proposed enlargement of the city's Dora district. As you can see by my address, 814 South Clinton. My husband and I live directly across from the old middle school. Thus, we own a house and live across the street from the last block of the current Dora district's southern boundary on South Clinton. Last year, an entrepreneur and Defiance native purchased what I fondly remember as peppermint patties from my youth and refurbished it into a new concept for Defiance, a food truck place. When Jennifer brought in Rosie's food trucks from Toledo, we walked over to try the fare. Despite COVID's restrictions, the response was phenomenal. And Jennifer continued to invite food trucks from all areas of Northwest Ohio and even Indiana, in the case of Kona Ice and Kona Koa, owned by our cousins, to provide a chance for hungry Defiance people to experience a wide variety of cuisine and also support family-owned small business. We continued popping over every week or two to have lunch or supper, often getting takeout and eating on our back deck until it got cold and the food trucks we liked closed down for the winter. By following D-Town on Facebook, I kept informed of Jennifer's plan for her business and her incredible enthusiasm for promoting Defiance and other food-oriented small businesses. We've bought local honey, caramel corn, jam, freshly baked bread, and are looking forward to trying some of her own sandwich and breakfast bowls, now that she has a commercial kitchen and can prepare food on site. We often meet neighbors and others who know when to go there to eat, all very supportive of D-Town's presence in our neighborhood and excited to have yet another place to eat and shop in Defiance. That being said, I'm in favor of the proposed extension of the Dora district to include D-Town. They would be able to serve a glass of wine or bottle of beer, along with their own sandwiches, as well as those who patronize the food trucks. While I myself do not drink, many others have enjoyed alcohol with their meal. D-Town has outdoor seating, so the Dora expansion will benefit their business greatly. I am also confident in Jennifer's capability to manage the responsibilities of serving alcohol to her patrons and doing so with integrity and professionalism. Regarding the extension of Dora to Pontiac Park and Kingsbury Park, I would be in favor of, quote, temporary Dora designation, quote, unquote, for those parks only for local sponsored events such as Jazz Fest, car shows, etc., for which allowing alcohol could be appropriate. Some have objected to Dora in the parks because of the proximity of children's playgrounds and family-oriented atmosphere, and I agree with them that there should continue to be no alcohol allowed in our parks for the safety and enjoyment of the park amenities by everyone. Thanks again. Kindest regards, Diana Bauer. Sorry it took so long, but we have interested citizens who want to have their say, and we promised them they would be heard. With that being said, do we have any comments or discussion from council? Mr. Engel.
There's no other discussion on this. I'd like to make a motion to adopt.
We have any other questions or comments? We have a motion to adopt.
Second.
Second. Mr. Mast.
Can I clarify some things?
Please clarify.
May I? If this does not pass, do we need to have a vote for the executive, the mayor, to bring something different?
Not this evening. What will happen is he will submit that amended plan to you. And then you, at the next meeting, or any meeting, you would have to take, when somebody brings it up, you would have to take a vote to see if the bill would be resurrected.
At that point, you'd have to have 4 votes, you said.
I mean, yes, for a majority.
And, sorry.
Go ahead.
And currently with this, we're looking at all parks in the area of Pontiac, Kingsbury, Auglaize, D-Town for the expansion, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good question. Ms. Engel. Mrs. Elders.
Mrs. Engel?
I do that every couple months. It's ridiculous.
It is.
It is.
Mr. Corbett.
No.
Mr. Hancock.
No.
Mr. Rusty.
Question.
Oh, okay. He said no.
Mr. Mast.
No.
Mr. Waxler.
No.
Mrs. Crutch. No. Mr. Engel.
No.
And this ordinance is rejected.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance directing the city administrator to enter into a grant agreement for funding the Bronson Park multi-use path and declare an emergency.
Mr. O'Donnell.
As council is aware, the city has been making gradual improvements to Bronson Park. It started with the splash park. It will include new playground equipment this summer. And we're also proposing a new shared use path along the perimeter of the park. And that's mostly due to the Ohio General Assembly appropriating $150,000 towards that effort. And those funds would be used to construct the path. It would be ADA accessible. It could be used to connect to other points in the city in the future. Particularly, I know there's been some talk of the reservoir trails. One point that you should know before you vote on this, if you choose to authorize the city administrator to go ahead and enter into this grant agreement with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, you are obligated to spend those $150,000 in that manner, like towards that trail. You can't spend it on roads or a raise for your law director or anything like that. It has to be for that particular purpose.
Thank you. Mrs. Kutch.
Is this multi-use passageway, is that like the same boardwalk that is at the reservoir? Is it gonna be wood and will it go all the way back towards the river?
This will be concrete, I believe. It will extend, correct, John? Concrete, not asphalt?
I believe that's correct.
All right. And maybe the surface doesn't. It's not a boardwalk.
Okay, it's not a boardwalk.
It will extend from the splash park
Okay.
following a line similar to the radius of the outfield fence when the outfield fence was there, over into Bronson. And the last discussion I was part of is that then there'll be some sidewalks within Bronson connecting the shelter houses. Was that not discussed as well, John?
I know that it primarily goes from the splash park to the wooded part of the park along the back of the parking lot, and it would take you towards the riverfront on the back side of the park. Details as to whether there's additional sidewalks going into the playground area, I do not know that.
I understand we have been talking about this for probably at least a year, and different versions have come from the engineering division and Nikki in planning, so I'm sorry I can't be specific. I think that's more of a.
That's just the
parcel. Border map of the park, yeah, so.
But at least going along the wooded area, it'll be towards that back
Yeah.
part.
And then, as you approved a couple weeks ago, I believe we'll also be paving the balance of the parking lots out there to the back, so that park will be in pretty darn good shape by the time we're done with it at the end of the construction season.
New playground equipment as well.
Yep. I think some talk about maybe painting the roofs of the shelter houses.
Mr. Waxler?
Well, my question is I understand, this for $150,000 for the grant, right, with the ODNR space or the grants. But what kind of a price are we looking at to construct this? And
The budget for the multi-use path, I believe, was about $140,000. I believe we had figured on a $100,000 grant and 40 or so from the city. We'll see where the actual bids come in, but the grant sounds like it'd cover the whole cost of the
okay,
path.
so we're not gonna get into something here and then decide, okay, we're gonna do this and add another 100,000 or 50,000 or so, whatever this covers is what we're doing.
This grant was
Correct.
incorporated into the budget, albeit at a slightly smaller amount. We budgeted 100,000 as a grant instead of 150, so we
Right.
should come out ahead.
Okay, I'm saying though, it's not something that we're gonna add, we're not gonna spend over the 150, correct? We're not gonna get into something to say, okay, now we got this 150, let's spend their 100 and put this here and this here and let's do this and let's do that. That's my question.
That's a difficult question to answer, to be honest with you.
Well, I can see that happening, that's why I'm questioning it before we say yes to 150,000, it could turn into spending
So
the
just
taxpayers another 150,000, just add more to it. you know?
So in the budget, there's like 3 different Bronson Park projects that were approved in the budget. One of them involves the paving of parking lots.
Which we already had.
One of them involves the replacement of the old playground equipment in the wooded section.
Did we pass that yet, or we just talked about it? I thought we passed that too.
Yep.
I believe that's
We
It's
passed it,
done.
yeah, okay.
Not done, but it's in the works. And then this multi-use path. So depending on where the bids come in, I think that you can rest assured that within the confines of those 3 projects, we're not looking to nickel and dime 10 more things into the park.
Okay, that's
I mean, the
exactly my
projects are pretty
question.
well defined, and that would be the intent.
Okay, alrighty.
And we actually get, Mr. Waxler, 147,000 of that 150. ODNR keeps 3 for the administrative costs to pay their lawyer, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I just know that I know the mayor has been, in the past, has talked about going to tying into the reservoir. I just didn't want to say, well, while we're doing this and we got them here, let's go the other, that's what I was watching.
Mr. Resty?
In this budget that we're looking at, would also include lighting, appropriate lighting.
For the pathway itself, Mr. Rusty?
Yes, would that be something as, we're just discussing as, something additional to the budget?
Lighting would be something we've discussed. It is in the future. If we didn't make any provisions, placing sleeves underneath drives or anything like that, we may go that far with it. We're actually doing some experimenting with some solar lighting that's proving to be quite nice, actually. So we will, but there will be no lighting as part of this project.
Mr. Hancock?
Along with this path, the yellow that we have here, this is just a perimeter, not the actual path, correct?
That's correct. That's just the borders of the park.
Will the path be able to have access to the river, possibly a kayak launch or anything of that sort?
I don't know whether you've been out there and actually walked over there, but it's
It's a high hill.
it's a significant incline. And we actually, a year or so ago, last summer, John, we had the lady from the ODNR that Jen works so closely with. She was here. What was it, Jen?
Christina Kukley.
I forgot you were back there and hiding behind John. And so, yeah, Christina was here. She's very enthusiastic about access to the river, kayaking, canoeing. The short answer is no. It would be so difficult to provide river access there, and including handicapped access, that it's just probably not in the cards. It would cost a significant amount of money.
The bank is just too steep there.
Yep.
To be clear, and really to put to rest your concerns, Mr. Waxler, all this ordinance does is say that we're gonna comply with the terms of the grant. The projects themselves are still gonna come to you in other legislation for your approval.
One more thing I will say, I believe it's our intention to maybe put a couple of the, I think what we all know now is river swings, over in that corner of the park. Because you do have a nice view of the river there.
Mm-hmm. And along with that, the emergency is for the, I'm assuming the deadline?
For the grant deadline, yes.
Mr. Waxler?
No further questions, motion suspended call.
We have a motion to suspend and call, Mr. Waxler. Second, Mr. Corbett.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
I have a question.
Mr. Esty?
I still think that, when this comes before council, at that point, we can make, any motions to amend this. Because in my opinion, I think where it's located, if you've been in those areas, that it is dark. And we do need to, provide appropriate lighting in that area for, safety of people who wanna use it. So that's something I'll be bringing back, so.
I don't disagree with you. Maybe we can do some preliminary planning between now and the time we bring in ordinance, Mr. Rusty, so we can get a feel for what that cost is gonna be. Those light bollards are expensive. But, I mean, I don't disagree with you on the lighting side. I do think when this was discussed one other time, we all reminded ourselves that the park, it's the intention that those parks close at dusk.
Correct.
Mr. Waxler?
No, I was just gonna say, that's what I was gonna say, with the closes, the dusk to dawn, I mean, it's kinda,
That
lighting's kind of
doesn't,
irrelevant.
that doesn't mean people
Depends how you look
won't
at it.
still use the walk.
Yeah.
So the motion to suspend and call has passed.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Engel.
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
And Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
And this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, a resolution in support of the community project funding budget request for the studying and data collection of the Maumee River watershed.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. President. The community project funding budget request, I had to look this up, is actually another name for an appropriations earmark. But it's also an opportunity for the community to obtain $690,000 in federal funding for a collaboration effort between the city, the Defiance College, Defiance County, the FFA, the farmers, something about the farmers, the
Future farm.
Hicksville, somebody else. But it is something that we would use for our to help with our IWIP, our Integrated Watershed Improvement Plan, that we will submit on November 1st of this year. I want to make it clear that Ohio EPA has made no such promises that this could be a substitute for any kind of CSO projects or anything like that. But when we make that pitch, when we sit across the negotiating table with OEPA, they're going to want to know if we're serious. And so what this resolution does is it lets lets our friends in Bob Latta's office know, our friends in the community know, and potential state regulators know that we're serious about cleaning up our rivers. Somebody said earlier in one of the letters, they are one of our greatest natural resources. And it gives the integrated watershed improvement plan submission a better potential for success. And I'll let Ms. English give some of the details on this item.
So I guess I'd first ask if there are any questions. We brought this last week. And so if there are specific questions, I'd be glad to answer those. So the project is, as it was originally envisioned, going to be in three sections of funding. The first section is about $330,000, and that's really for the building of the alliance, which would be more staff-oriented. It would be stipends for students, possibly internships. The details are yet to be determined and developed fully, but that's the intent with that first $330,000. The second portion is $350,000, which would be for a data center, more focused on technology and equipment and things like that. That would be located at the college, not intended to build any new buildings or anything like that. It would go into existing facilities at Defiance College. And then the third portion, the way it's being proposed is for a conference. So that could include travel expenses for different watershed experts. I don't know that it will cost $10,000 to put on a conference, but that was the amount that was proposed for that amount. So like Sean said, it really is an opportunity to collaborate between the college, the county, and the city. The city has been recognized for our source water protection program by Ohio EPA. Was recently, I think you brought that to council not long ago. Ohio EPA recommended that to US EPA, and so we've been asked to speak and present on that. So really the focus of this is building the resources of the college around that issue, using the work that we've done at the city, and like you said, lending it towards the work we're doing with Ohio EPA and that negotiation. But then also calling on the expertise of the county and the staff that they have in their conservation district and their extension office, the OSU extension. So I will ask if there's any other comments or.
If I'm,
Please do.
One comment, I just want to credit Jen. She has driven us on this for about the last 10 days since it came to us. She's worked very hard, very, very hard on it. I'm sure she spent a whole lot more time with me than she cares to, talking on the phone in the evenings and emailing and all of that. But I don't know where this will go. I don't know where this will take us exactly. But as Sean said, this could enhance our IWIP in the future and ultimately develop some technology that could help us with our watershed as well as Lake Erie. So we'll just have to see.
I think to your point with Ohio EPA, this doesn't guarantee us anything, but it really it shows that we have the capacity to do these kinds of projects and that we are cooperating with our community. It's not just about the city or the county or one negotiation. It's really bringing an advisory council together, and we've talked to folks from the industries within Defiance. We've talked to folks that are in the crop advising world. We've talked to other folks that I will probably forget somebody, so I'm not going to name names, but really bringing in the resources that are already here in our community to really demonstrate that we're serious. And Jeff's not here, but to his credit, he's really been proactive, and he's said Defiance wants to be a leader in this. So
I would like to assemble a panel of 3 water experts, Jen being one, and have like a Jeopardy game. And I promise you, that lady would win. She knows her stuff.
Mr. Hancock.
Yes, I'd like to commend Ms. English as well. And I'd also like to commend the collaboration with the educational systems.
Yeah.
The college and the local schools, the rural schools, as well as the farming community. It's a group effort, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah, we actually have some staff that would certainly challenge me. Our water plant staff, Adam and Joe, both have seen this, and Joe actually was part of the FFA program, and I think they've maybe changed the acronym or changed what that stands for. But how I know it is Future Farmers of America, and not every school district has a chapter, which you brought up last week, Ms. Crutch. So it would, again, allow the schools to administer the program as they see fit within their own program. So it's not limiting it to the schools that have the FFA programs. But yeah, we do have support letters from all 5 school districts within the county. So I think that's, it's a good effort for not just the city, but I think connecting Defiance College to our local schools is a good opportunity. So this program will really focus on building the capacity of the college to participate in what's our largest industry in the community, our largest economic factor, which would be farming, and then one of the things that's the most important to the city is our drinking water and protecting that source. So I don't have anything else unless there are questions.
Are there any further questions for Ms. English?
Thank you.
Question, most spending call.
Motion, Mr. Waxler, second, Mr. Corbett.
Mr. Waxler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
Motion to adopt, Mrs. Crutch, second, Mr. Hancock.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Rusty?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
And Mr. Waxler?
Yes.
Thank
This
you.
resolution is also adopted. And with the items of legislation addressed, were there any other citizens' concerns on an issue that wasn't an ordinance this evening in the hands of any of the council members you'd like to read or share?
I didn't have anything, but I guess I should have brought up again. I wanted to remind people that I was on the way here, I noticed 3 or 4 people out mowing their yard. 2 of them were commercial people, and the road was covered in grass. I mean, please don't blow your grass out in the street. It bugs the drains, the sewer. It's bad. I mean, grass is kind of high right now, and it was terrible coming. I seen 4 of them, and 2 of them were commercial mowers that was doing it.
It's a hazard to people riding motorcycles, but you're right, Mr.
Exactly.
Waxler.
Definitely.
It fills up the catch basins and technically is a violation of our city code, so.
Just remind people not to do that, so.
Talk with you. All right, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn city council for this evening?
I have a question.
Sure.
Since hopefully the mayor will come back with a recommendation the next meeting or so, would it be maybe to support whatever he might bring to the table? Would it be advisable maybe for council to suggest 2 council members that maybe could confer with him to offer our viewpoints? We had 3-4, 3-4, 3 that were against it, 4 that were for it before, whether we want to take somebody off that so that we can blend what he might want to make a recommendation to. I mean, that's just a suggestion on my part.
That's fine, Mr. Rusty. Mrs. Mack's board meets on Friday. I was hoping that there'd be a recommendation from her board to what they'd like my next move to be, but I will send you all an email tomorrow morning and ask you who would like to participate in that conference. We'll get together. We have 2 weeks. So. Yep.
Is it sound amenable? I suppose so. So do we have a motion to adjourn this evening? Mr. Waxler? Second, Mr. Engel. All those in favor of adjourning this evening, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. We're adjourned.
Two roundabouts on by the.
I apparently fall asleep.